Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Reborn Football Podcast. I'm Fuego, and I'm here with,
Sans.
and a lot of you probably recognize if you've been kind of following us that we've not been very active for the last maybe month or two. Obviously, both of us having our own kind of life commitments, university, and all of that other stuff. But we're back, and hopefully get a few more episodes out. And try and stay a bit more consistent. Obviously, this is going to be the time recording. We are the 30th of
December.
December.
Yeah.
So this will hopefully be our first episode of the year 2025. So Happy New Year in advance from the time of recording. Without further ado, we're just going to head straight into the verse of the episode. So for those who maybe are joining us for the first time, this is a football podcast, but we also incorporate our faith into it. So we normally read a verse or two from the Bible, kind of share our understanding, and then we delve into a bit of football content. So I'll let Tans take us away with the verse of today's episode.
So it's not really a verse. It's more like a few verses because you have to read the few verses before to really understand the context. So the verses that we're focusing on are Luke chapter 10 verses 41 and 42. But we're also going to read 30 from 38 just to get the full context. So this is the little story of Martha and Mary in the Bible. Now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered the village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister named Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. So this is a quite profound little story within the Bible. I think it's something that we can definitely all relate to in our lives. It's the point of, not really focusing on God, but focusing on other things around God. Even in that moment, obviously I don't want to assume, but maybe she was making food or making sure the house was ready for Jesus, which is good.
Yeah.
She was trying to serve God in that moment. But what Jesus outlined is that Mary was so focused on hearing the word of God, on listening to his teachings, which was actually the more important aspect of that moment in that time, that she dropped everything she did and just sat to listen to Jesus, even if it meant that, her previous commitments that she had, that day weren't being completed. Meanwhile, Martha was completely focused on, doing her work and being concerned and being worried, that this wasn't getting done and that wasn't getting done. And while, Jesus was preaching in her home, so it just shows that, sometimes even with good intentions, sometimes we can lose true focus of where we're meant to be. When I was reading this, it made me think of another verse, Matthew 6, verse 33. If you could just get that up. Yeah, do you have it
I've
already?
got it
Yeah,
up.
have it already,
Yeah.
just so that to
Go
ensure
ahead.
that we're reading it
We're not
exactly correctly.
misquoting scripture.
So,
Don't do that.
Matthew 6, verse 33, seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. So, essentially, it's just, I feel like it's another thing that ties in perfectly with this story, that if you just seek God, seek his kingdom and his righteousness, then everything else that you want, everything else that you worry about will be given unto you. And in fact, you even look at 34 there, just something
Yeah, so
a little bit similar into the
what does it
story.
say?
It
So
says,
so don't
yeah,
don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today.
so, just again, just adding that little extra context of that initial verse, that if you just focus on God, you don't need to worry about what's going on in the present. You don't need to worry about what's happened in the past, and you most certainly don't need to worry about what's happening in the future, because God has it all, and if you just focus on him, he'll take care of all the other things for you.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think it's just important to kind of reiterate that we need to kind of focus on the things of God. Everything else kind of follows. So it's not telling you to like throw a caution to the wind. Don't make plans for your future in terms of like your future aspirations and goals for, I don't know, college, your career, whatever other areas of life. But the first thing that should be your primary focus is the things of God, which was, I don't want to say the wrong person. It was
Martha. That's what Martha was doing.
That was Martha's focus.
Yeah.
She knew that, there's limited time with Jesus on this earth.
Wait. Are you asking who?
Who was the one that was listening to?
Oh yeah, that was Mary. It was Mary, and then Martha. No, I thought you were asking the other one. It was Mary that was focused.
Apologies, guys.
Mary was focused, and Martha was doing all the other things. So yeah, go on. Sorry, yeah.
Yes. So Mary knew that there was this limited time with Jesus on earth, that he is the true Messiah. The words that are coming out of his mouth are very important for her destiny, everything that's going on with her, that they are even more important than all the things that keep us busy in life. Whereas Martha was concerned with, whereas her heart wasn't necessarily in the wrong place for wanting to have everything, fitting for Jesus Christ. But at the same time, she also needed to focus that, look, I focus on Jesus, I focus on God, the things of God, making sure that I live right, as Matthew 6:33 says, everything else will be sorted out. God has this way of just taking care of his children. So we need not worry about anything, that God will sort us out as long as we have our focus on him. So that's what I'd add to that.
Agreed. And just one last thing just to add, in the initial passage from Luke, you see that Jesus says you are anxious and worried about too many things. And I'm sure at some point we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I just want to reiterate, not just to you, even for me as well, because my mom will tell you, I do be worrying sometimes. Worry is not a thing of God, so it's really important for us to, take worry aside and, have that full trust and faith in God. And I just want to bring one last verse just to, really hammer the point home. Philippians 4:6 verse 7, which says, you can check that for me, but which says, do not be anxious. Do not be anxious about anything, but with prayer and supplication, present your requests to God, and the peace of the Lord that surpasses all understanding will guard our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus.
Correct.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So just again, do not be worried, but again, that you see the second part of that verse focuses on focusing on God. So seek first God and his kingdom and his righteousness, and then everything else will be taken care of for you.
Yeah. So I think we'll head into the football portion. Obviously, a lot has happened since the last time that we've kind of got together, and we've gone through stuff that's happening in the football world. I'm not sure whether or not we were pre-Ballon d'Or or not.
I think we were. Were we post?
I have a feeling we were week of, because I don't think we've spoken about the Ballon d'Or yet. Obviously, that's not going to be the main focus of today, but
just to touch on it, obviously I do think that Rodri deserved this Ballon d'Or. I don't think I also think that Vinny deserved the Ballon d'Or, but I feel like what we've grown up with and older fans have become accustomed to over the past few years is having a clear, outright Ballon d'Or winner, and just because that's I think the main thing that we need to take is that just because you feel Vinny deserved to win it doesn't mean that Rodri also didn't deserve to win it. Rodri very much deserved to win it. He was the best player on the Premier League winning team. They also you guys won the FIFA Club World Cup. You won the UEFA Super Cup. And then obviously won the Premier League again. So I mean that is a Ballon d'Or winning season with a lot of goal contributions from a position that you wouldn't expect for him to get those goal contributions from. Obviously Vinny, key contributions in winning the Champions League, which has a lot of bearing on the weight in the past decade or so. But yeah, just because Vinny deserved to win it doesn't mean that Rodri didn't deserve to win it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to say too much more about that, because obviously I'm a City fan, so I was 100% rooting for Rodri. whereas I maybe had a feeling in my head that Vinny was probably gonna take it. Seeing Rodri take it is a very nice thing to see. I think he's the first Premier League winner in a while.
Since Ronaldo, I think.
It's the first Premier
Yeah.
League winner in a very long while. Am I correct? I'm almost certain he's the first Spanish winner since I don't even know when.
I don't even know who the last Spanish winner was. Yeah, you'd have to look that up for me.
Yeah.
I don't know who the last Spanish winner was, but yeah, definitely been a while anyway. And yeah, even just looking at Man City's form since he got injured, I personally
It's a
feel
different thing.
that highly vindicates the award that he was given. You
That's
know,
another
like
thing to even
you
talk
know,
about.
even something we were already planning to talk about, which is the downfall of City this season. I mean, obviously, you guys will more than likely not make it 5 in a row. Obviously, you guys can probably still finish second or third. That's not out of the question. But you guys downfall in form, coupled with Liverpool's outstanding start to the season, means that the title is probably no longer there. As a City fan, obviously from the outsider, it just looks like Rodri fell and everything fell for Man City, and I feel like those that know football would probably have a similar opinion. But is there anything as a City fan that you feel that we are not touching on that has really been the reason for you guys not doing so well so far?
I don't think so, because there's a lot of things that people can put it down to. They can put it down to maybe a lack of performance from some of City's big names that when it's time to turn up, they turn up. Like obviously the season that Foden had, or particularly the second half of last season that Foden had versus his season currently. I saw a stat earlier today that Jack Grealish did not score
For the whole of
for the
this
whole
year.
of
Yeah.
2024. That's another player who is important to City when he plays and he's in good form. But the one thing that he doesn't have in his game at the moment is getting those goals and being there in the right moments. Haaland obviously having a great first few games and then trailing off completely as soon as the rest of the team was trailing off, almost making it reminiscent of when De Bruyne was injured last season. That when he doesn't have service, he's not able to do much. De Bruyne also getting injured in September wasn't a good thing for us either, in terms of he brings something completely different. The last few games that he's been back in, whether it's for 70 minutes or it's for 25 minutes, he completed his first full 90 on Sunday after I don't know how long. So there's a lot of different things that kind of build up, but we say things like, okay, Rodri's injured, De Bruyne has been injured multiple times, City have won the league. Pep has shown that he doesn't need, like, he has star players, core players, but he's shown that there are people who he can pick, bring in, that will step up when it's needed. And it's like, what is going wrong now? So I don't think it's down to any of the things to do with injuries or the way people are playing or underperformance or anything like that. I think it's just there may be just this thing of kind of a little bit of complacency from the players that, we've made history in terms of the Premier League. We're dominating England. We've won the treble. We've won the Champions League, which was one of the biggest goals since City Group actually took over Manchester City. But that's there, and it's not like, what more is there? There's something to do with the mentality to actually push on and want to do it again and do it again, which they have done in the Premier League. But this kind of lethargic feeling in terms of the way they play, that like it's so different to the City that we know, coupled with the fact that there are so many injuries. I think that's what's happening now, and it's gonna take a very, very big City end of the season thing for anything to happen to even come close to like getting into that second, third position. I wouldn't write them off yet, simply
Neither would
because of Arsenal were top of the table for how many days, or what percentage of
Yeah,
season, two
2 seasons
seasons
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
And now Arsenal maybe were less experienced in a title race, less experienced against City in a title race compared to Liverpool, because Liverpool have gone toe to toe with City in recent years as well. But it's going to take
Something
complete
crazy.
reversal of City's form and Liverpool to have the same form that City have just had
Yeah.
for anything to happen. But in between them is quite open. from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nottingham Forest are second right now.
Yeah, we're yet to play, but you know that there's us in there as well.
Exactly.
Chelsea that actually just lost this evening, like about 30 minutes before we started recording. You know, there. I mean, Nottingham Forest. That's a real. You know, they've done really well so far. Probably talk about them maybe later this episode or on another day. They've done really well so far. But yeah, I mean, it's really open. The Premier League is at a really high level right now, in my opinion. I feel like, you know, some fans of teams that do less than they expected kind of get salty and say that the league is not at a high level just because their team is not doing so well. I think the league is at the highest level it has ever been. It is so tough. There's like there's like 5 teams in the league where you go up against them and you say we are 100% guaranteed to win. Every single Premier League fan right now, like even down, like we're playing Brentford on New Year's. They're like 12th. I'm not like, you know, back in the day, if you're playing the team in 12th, you're like 3 points, easy, like minor. Like nowadays, I'm like, you know, that this could be a really tough game, especially away from home. Like I'm actually kind of nervous. Like you're nervous for like 80% of the games in the Premier League. It's at a high level right now.
Yeah.
Even, you know, and it's funny because it's always like you make fun of, especially supporting a, you know, Big Six team, you make fun of one of your rivals for dropping points to a team, and then you turn around and drop points to that exact same team.
We were talking about that earlier in terms of Ipswich.
Ipswich.
Chelsea.
You know, we only beat Ipswich 1-0. No, to be honest, it wasn't a great performance from us, right? But we only beat Ipswich 1-0 the other day. Everyone had, you know, their bit to say. We're boring, this and that. But then Ipswich now beat Chelsea today. Those same Chelsea fans that were talking the other day are now seeing it now, and it's happened to me as well. You know, I remember. I think Tottenham dropped points against Fulham, and I was like, oh, like how can you drop points against Fulham? Like that's crazy. And then we dropped points against Fulham. So no, this league has become very unforgiving. I think whoever wins the league this year, like, will truly deserve it.
Yeah, because it's kind of like maybe I think it's a slight dip in performance from the big big six,
the top.
And then you've got this kind of raising of the standard from the rest of the league. So it's no longer a monopoly where it's maybe it's a 2-horse race for majority of the season. Like before the season even starts, it's like it's gonna be City and Arsenal, it's gonna be City and Liverpool again. You see teams that maybe don't have pressure. Nottingham Forest, again, obviously we'll speak about that at some point, but they don't have pressure. They seem to just be enjoying themselves. Yeah. They're getting joy, they're winning matches, they're getting points. And at this point where we're about halfway through the season, now they are Nottingham Forest. They've never really been in a title race like that. But at the same time, I don't see them dropping loads and loads and loads of points for the second half of the season. So they have actually done so much better than you'd expect them to. And it's almost like, as you said, there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of you going into a match. You thought you were going to beat, like last season or 2 seasons ago, it's an easy win. It's an easy 3 points. At this point now, you can't really predict a Premier League match at this point.
Even a couple of weeks ago, I went to London to go watch Everton at home, and we drew 0-0. You know, like when I got that game, I was like, yeah, like okay, 3 points, drew 0-0. Chelsea fans were giving us stick, and then they drew 0-0 with Everton the week after. This league is tough, man. This league is difficult.
Very, very.
Even Fulham, we dropped points with Fulham. Liverpool fans were giving us stick, and then they dropped points to Fulham.
Yeah, this it's one of those unexpected ones as well.
This league is very, very, very difficult right now. You know, very difficult. And yeah, man, we just got to keep going. I will say though that even in spite of that, Liverpool have been at a very, very high standard this season. Very, very high standard. You know, 45 points out of, is that 54? I think they've played 18 games, so that should be 54. That's the, you know, I mean, that's high levels. They're I think going at just under a 100 point pace right now, which is ridiculous. You know, just under, I think. Because if it's 45, they've 18 games. So if you assume that they win their 19th game, that's 48. And if you times that by 2, that's they're 96. So just about. So they're doing really well at the moment. I mean, Mo Salah,
30 goal involvements.
Yeah.
Yesterday, he clocked 2 goals and 2 assists, wasn't it?
It was one goal and 2 assists.
Was that last night?
Yeah, last night 1 goal and
Yeah,
2 assists.
1 goal and 2 assists. That brings him to 17 goals and
13 assists. Oh my god!
It's just it's
and
a crazy season.
It's crazy, like it's 17 goals and 13 assists. If someone ends up with that after 38 games, that is like that's
a good
elite.
season.
Not
Yeah,
even,
that's
not
a good
even
season.
that's an elite
No,
season.
I know what you mean.
That's an elite season, and he has that after 18 games. Utterly ridiculous.
It's very, very, very crazy.
Now Salah does, especially the past couple of years, Salah has had a little bit of a thing for dropping off in the second half of the season. It did happen last year, although he did have an injury that he got at AFCON. But he does have a little bit of a thing for dropping off in the second half of the season. But even if he drops off, we're probably still talking about 40 goal involvements at least.
At least, yeah. Because it's difficult to do 30 in, what's that now, maybe 4 months?
Yeah.
And then not...
Do at least like 10 more.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Ridiculous levels that he's hit so far. Looking at... Actually do want to talk about Chelsea a little bit. I know that they faltered the last couple of games.
Yeah.
But they were doing really well up until like about a week and a half ago. And... Tactically, some of their players are starting to come into form. Caicedo's having a much better season this season than he did last. Obviously, Palmer's not quite reaching the levels he was reaching at the end of last season. But, he's still doing really well.
He was overperforming last season.
Slightly, but I mean, he's still he's at a high level. I think he has about 16 or 17 goal involvements already, which would have looked really good about 2 weeks ago until Mo Salah decided to go nuclear. So, and then obviously in midfield, Enzo Fernandez has looked a lot better recently. It's up. The one player I actually do want to focus on from Chelsea is Nicholas Jackson. He's been really good this season. Like really, like he's He just has an extra confidence. There was a finish that he had a couple weeks ago. I think it was at home to Brentford, the second goal. And the way he finished it, like it was just a counter-attack. Enzo just played it out to him. He just took 2 or 3 touches, sized up his defender, and just hit it bottom near bottom corner. And it just reminded me of Drogba. Not saying that he is Drogba, but the confidence, the conviction with which he finished, Jackson could really be a player. He could be Chelsea's, striker for this project. But you never know with Chelsea, They might just decide to buy Isak this summer or something.
Chelsea are weird. That's another thing. I think, as you said, in terms of a lot of players coming into form and really, getting to the heights that, they probably wanted in terms of the development of the Chelsea project. That A team, what I would call the A team, is gelling very, very well.
Yeah.
In the Premier League, obviously up until a few weeks ago, and they've kind of started dropping points. But just in general, the kind of progression that they've had over the last few months has been really, really, really nice to see. Maybe coupled with the fact that my team is not doing too well, I don't really care. But at the same time, when you're looking at it from the Chelsea project point of view, from obviously Abramovich being forced to sell the club, and then I think things were already kind of dipping at that point, and then no owner, all the hardship that the Chelsea fans have had to go through over the past maybe 4 or 5 years post.
Not sympathetic, by the way, but go on.
But yeah, it's looking really good for them, just in general, because if you even look at, remember we're speaking about kind of the Conference League, and the fact that somebody like Cole Palmer isn't even in there.
Yeah,
the group stage. The group stage is done now, so he can get registered for the knockout.
Is it done?
Yeah, I was confused. I was confused when I saw it because there's only 6 games in their group stage.
Oh, in conference, but there's 8 in Champions League and Europa, is it? Oh, okay. Right.
But Conference League playoffs they've already been drawn. I think they're next month. I think the playoffs are next month for the Conference League. Obviously, Chelsea.
I'm not fully sure about the
I don't know
if
they topped the group or not.
I'm not fully familiar with the Conference League layout, and I don't really want to be. So Chelsea finished top, so we'll assume that they got that helps them. I think maybe they might be true to like the last 32 or the last 16 or something.
They're gonna end up playing the team that is like ranked the worst
Playoff,
from that playoff.
yeah.
But the point being there is that obviously you spoke about the fact that they're able to rest people like Palmer, other people that they kind of want for their important
Premier
competitions
League games, yeah.
because of their squad depth, where they're able to have this quote unquote A team that I would call them that play in the Premier League, and then they have this B team who is everybody else playing in the Conference League. Because if you think about it, even Sancho isn't in the Conference League squad.
And it's keeping a relatively big squad kind of happy. I'm not saying they're dumb, like they know that they're the B team,
of course,
but at least they're getting minutes. At least that's something. And it reminds me to a dilemma that a lot of football fans were having last season. Obviously, last season Chelsea and Man United were the two hideous twins. Chelsea finished the season kind of strongly, but up until like the end of March, Chelsea and Man United were the, two hideous twins. And at that time, I was just feeling like the difference between Chelsea and Man United is that there's actually talent at Chelsea. Of course, they've spent so much money to get this talent, but law of averages, at some point, something has to stick, which is why I'm not like praising their so-called project. I just see it as something has stuck. You give them credit for, they've bought some good players. A few players have stuck, but it wasn't really. I'm just because it's starting to turn out good now, doesn't mean I'm going to change the fact that I thought it was very disorganized and all over the place. But it's come out now. It's come out good now because they had talented players. The difference between them and Man United is that Man United lack quality, like real, like hard quality. It's not there. The thing with United is that it's names. You see these names and you think they're quality, but then you actually watch them play and it's like, what's going on here? It's tough. Like United United are gonna have to do some serious soul searching over the next year or two, man, to get out of the rut that they're in right now.
But to be fair, I don't know what would restore you. Like, I'm not sure. Let me not curse United. They're called the Red Devils, but that's a different thing. I'm not sure they can ever get back to the heights that they were at in the early 2000s when Ferguson was the manager, because I wouldn't even look at it from the point of view of who was given the reins after, because it was always going to be a difficult job for anyone
to replace
Alex Ferguson. But that being said, as you said, the quality isn't there. You see the names that have been quality, and there's kind of this bias that he used to be this great footballer and all of that stuff, and then people have kind of just, there's been a dip in their form at some point, and they never get back to where they were, and it's kind of like, okay, their squad, you can't say that they're lacking squad depth. They have players that they can bring in when other people are not working out the way that they should. As you've seen, Rashford has been dropped for the last 4 games. It's not like they've missed him. Now, the results are not any better with or without him, in my opinion, anyway.
But they haven't been worse.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's not like they miss him.
Yeah.
That being said, I think the fact that there's a few people that I feel like, without injuries, people like Luke Shaw, Mason Mount, if they were given a run.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Mount's situation, I don't understand the move to United at all.
Yeah.
But I feel like if he had been given the time and he wasn't getting injured, Mount is still a quality player, in my opinion.
Shaw is still England's best left back. It's
fitness.
But like at the end of the day, like, you can only deal with what's in front of you. These guys aren't on the pitch, like they're on the treatment table. You can only deal with the quality that's in front of you, and the quality that's in front of us right now at United is really not what you want it to be at all. And that's why I feel like if ever a manager was to get a free hit season, it should be Amorim. Really, truly and truly, because I watched a couple of their first games. They look better coached, but coaching can only take you so far.
No, I know what you mean.
Coaching can only take you so far. Like when your wingers can't beat their man, I like Højlund. I think he has a lot of potential, but he's very raw. He has a lot of things that he has to work on. Again, that could come with coaching, but Right now in terms of hard, core quality, he's also not really there yet. Their defenders can't defend. The midfield is just, don't know, like it's kind of like
It's
you
difficult to even say.
once you get past that first press, you're in their box in a few seconds.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So it's gonna take a while for United. I feel like they have a good manager. It's too early for me to say the right manager because you never really know. But I feel like they have a good manager that if they give him time, if they truly allow him to actually recruit the players that he wants, you know, I feel like, he could at least bring them back to, a strong level of respectability back into the Champions League. And then United always have the money. So if they can just get it right for 2 or 3 years, United could be back.
Even the thing of United always have the money. I don't know. I feel like these new owners are stingy, and it also brings. It's reminiscent for me of there's a lot of politics within the executive boards of football clubs. Like it just reminds me of things like Tuchel. I don't believe should have been sacked when at the moment he was sacked for Chelsea. Posh, same thing. Maybe Tuchel, maybe not so much, but Posh didn't make any sense. You're making progress, and then you sack him. That was a bit weird. The changes in the managerial structure at United in particular between the actual coaching staff and the board itself in terms of Ratcliffe buying the club and Glazers out and all of this rubbish that was going on. That there's a lot of things that have kind of been happening to do with money in particular at United that makes it seem as though they don't have money. I don't believe they don't, but hearing things like they cancelled their Christmas function, not necessarily because they want the players to focus, but because they saved 250k. What do United need 250k from a Christmas party for?
Oh yeah, did you see? I seen the other day that apparently they reduced the funding for like their old players foundation. So like players that like played back in the day, and obviously the money wasn't what it is now, so they're struggling a bit. So I didn't even know that they had a foundation for that. Like that's really wholesome. I guess maybe most clubs have it, but I actually didn't know. So
Obviously,
that's really wholesome.
Obviously, it comes to a point where the economy is tight. Just in general, it's not a football thing. It's just an economy thing. So I can understand things being, scaled back. But things like Sir Alex Ferguson's
Bucks, isn't it? Was it?
No, it wasn't a box, but whatever they were paying him as like a
Ambassador, right.
yeah, ambassador, whatever his role was, that he technically still has a role, but he's not getting paid anymore, and that takes a lot of money off. Like they're not paying out, like there's millions in that, and I think. I don't remember who it was I was saying it to, but they were like, they thought it was a little bit ridiculous for me to say, but for what Alex Ferguson has done for United, there's a debt that cannot be repaid, in my opinion anyway, where the amount of money they're paying him, millions a year, that's nothing in my opinion.
Compared to what he would have made them. Yeah.
Not even compared to what he would have made then, but the fact that Manchester United is a household name, it's one of the most well-known businesses in the world, not even football club, businesses in the world, is because of that man. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think they had any Premier. He won all 13 Premier League titles in the Premier League era for United. Nobody has done that since. What does it tell you? That he was that guy for them. And then what was the other thing that I was thinking about? I saw this a few weeks ago as well. Apparently, for the FA Cup final last year, what they would normally do is they'd pay for the families of like the coaching staff to get hotels and all of that stuff and tickets to the match and all that. Apparently they cut that. Bruno Fernandes found out that they cut that.
Oh, I seen this.
He offered to pay, and they said no, they're not going to do that.
Why wouldn't they let him pay?
I think it's quite silly. But
and anyway, back to the thing. United have United. It's not all doom and gloom for United. If they can get their act together for the next, like I said, if they can get their act together for the next 2 or 3 years, they could be back. But right now in the present, it's bleak, man.
No, I totally agree.
Just because I seen it today. I seen a tweet today that was like your best sporting moment of 2024. So yeah, I think just something nice to wrap this up. What was your favorite football moment or football moments of the year?
I say moments. I think moments for me last season would have been one when Kevin De Bruyne came back from injury, because I think it was similar this season to last season, where it was the very first game actually last season that he did.
Got it. Oh, I
It was his
remember.
hamstring.
It was his hamstring.
And
I
he
remember.
did surgery and he was out for maybe 4 months. And he came back on schedule. They eased him back in. But even when he came back in, you could just see he had come back, new hairstyle, new everything, was just fresh. Different idea. Same De Bruyne, but different ideas. He was injecting life. I can't remember what game it was, but there was one free kick that he took. He put his hands up as if he was going to put the ball in and just played the ball straight. It was from kind of midfield, 40 yards out, and kind of central, a little bit to the right. Put his hand up as he was going to put the ball into the box. Played a straight ball, and Julian Alvarez ran onto it and just one shot scored.
Damn.
Julian Alvarez's season as well last season, in particular for the 10 or so games that Haaland was out, the guy was amazing. The guy was brilliant. I said it to someone a few days ago that this thing that's happening to our team will never happen if Julian Alvarez still played for us. That's just my opinion, but that's maybe a conversation for another day. So those two kind of for City, and I think the Euros was just it was an action-packed Euros this summer just gone. So I would say the whole thing. I'm not gonna pick out a particular moment. Obviously, Yamal scored that mad goal, and obviously Spain went on to win. Bellingham scored a scabby bicycle kick, but who knows? If England had beaten Spain, who knows who would have won the Ballon d'Or? You know what I mean?
Probably would have been Bellingham.
But yeah, that was just a crazy summer for football, in my opinion, as well. The Olympics, actually,
Yeah, Thierry Henry. I know that, Good.
they ended up not winning. The final was very, very, very dramatic. Like, it went to extra time, and I think they got 2 goals in extra time. Just killed off the game.
Oh yes, I remember. Yeah.
They just killed off the game. Spain were amazing in that competition, and I think it ended up only being 2 people who played. Well, they didn't really play. They played maybe 1 game in the Euros that went to the Olympics. But yeah, that Olympic final, football final anyway, that was also a top tier moment.
Just before I answer, just side note. Ain't it crazy that the last Euros and Olympics, Pedri was a key member for both teams? Oh man, I've talked about this so much. He's talked about it so much. Our friends talked about it so much. That was child abuse, bro.
Yeah, it can never ever happen again. Yeah. Spain learned from it.
Yeah, and
it wasn't. Barcelona learned from it as well. Actually, so they just
that was ridiculous. But anyway, my favorite moments of the year. My number one moment was when was AFCON. Specifically when Iheanacho scored his penalty to take us to the final. Obviously we didn't win, but I was talking about it with my friends Timothy and Pharrell today, and it was just that semi-final, that semi-final, as the saying goes, God forbid, but as the saying goes, that semi-final took years of my life. Like that was, oh man, I was at another college for an event, and I was just watching the game while it was going on. So it's 1-0, right? We get the what's it called? We score 2-0, right? Osimhen scores, but in the build-up, there'd been a penalty all the way at the other side of the pitch, all the way. So I'm screaming, jumping like we're in the final, screaming, jumping, and then they start checking VAR, and you know what it is, yeah. You know what it is? VAR is very funny. When things like that happen, you see it in real time, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah,
but then because we went on and scored, you think that your sins won't be atoned for. You think that there's no consequences to your actions. You celebrate as if there's no VAR. There was very much VAR. I've never seen anything like that in my life. They cancelled our goal, gave them their penalty, and they equalized. South Africa almost scored in the last minute as well. It was a free kick. Basically, guy had the goal as mercy and kicked it over the bar, and then obviously we now won on penalties. So yeah, I mean, AFCON as a whole was a very entertaining tournament. In my opinion, it was the best international tournament of the year. I mean, we're just hoping that African football can continue to improve. A slight aside to that as well, Ademola Lookman winning African Player of the Year it was a great moment. I really enjoyed it. I already kind of knew about him before he even joined Everton when he was at Charlton back in the day. I remember when he scored on his debut against Man City in January 2017, and just the struggles that he's had. Obviously that penalty miss for Fulham, just struggles that he's had. Finally coming to Atalanta, finding his home, deciding to play for Nigeria, which was a very key turning point in his career. The rise from those difficult moments to becoming undisputedly the best player in Africa and one of the best players in the world, one of the best at his position as well. It's just, it was a great moment seeing him win that award. And finally, this is less of a moment and more of just a period of time, but February 2024 Arsenal, when we were playing teams off the park, all our away games, the fans were leaving after 30 minutes, 5-0, 6-0, 5-1, 4-6.
You guys scored like 30 something, almost 30 goals.
We scored like 30 goals in a month or something like that, man.
Madness, man.
It was crazy. So many goals, so many assists. We were scoring a good few from set pieces as well, goals from all over the park, and then that was like a small part of a wider period where obviously we won 16 games. Drew one, lost one, and a very good run of form that almost allowed us to pinch the title, but we just didn't quite get there.
I think it's been a mad kind of footballing year. And I think with teams trying to juggle this workload where the schedule is just getting busier and busier and busier, and turning to maybe their academies to kind of fill in gaps, especially where players are, getting fatigued, getting injured and stuff like that. Obviously with the Club World Cup in its new format this summer is also going to be a turning point in terms of that. I saw something, it's an aside, probably we'll talk about it a little bit more in another episode, in terms of Trent possibly ending up at Real Madrid. Before the Club World Cup, which would be interesting to see. But again, just a lot more football matches. It's great for the fans, not so good for the players. But then there's also this thing of
the side effects. Plenty of injuries we can see coming up for players. That's a conversation. We've said that a few times today. That's what happens when you don't do anything for 2 months. There's a lot to talk about.
That's true.
If we really went through everything, this would probably be like a 2-hour episode.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
We don't have all that time in the world.
Yeah, no, but I think we'll probably
wrap it up for today. I think we'll wrap it up for today. So, for those that made it all the way to the end, a warm thank you. Once again, for those that celebrate, it should be most of us, considering that this is a Christian channel. But you never know. For those that celebrate, thank you for those that celebrate. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And thank you for making it all this way. Thank you for supporting. We ask that you continue your support. We thank you for all the support that you've continued to give us for the past year and a half now. We ask that you can subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're watching it on Spotify, you can comment if you like. And just thank you for this. Thank you for the support that you've given us, and as they continue to give us that support. And I'll let Femi take us out.
So I echo everything you said. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for listening, for watching. For those who are interested in just the Bible portion or just the football portion or both, we appreciate you all the same. Again, wherever you're watching or listening to it, we'd appreciate it if you like, comment, subscribe, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. I'm not too familiar with it. Maybe I'll get familiar with it over the next few months. But so we'll leave it there. Merry Christmas to you all. Happy New Year. We wish you all the best for the coming year, and we will see you guys in the next episode.